Hi, I'm Kelly,
I'm Allison.
I'm Leah.
And I'm Kristen.
and this is Fear and Wine. Hi, welcome back to Fear and Wine. We are a podcast about horror TV shows, movies, and more. If it's scary, creepy, or disturbing, we're watching it, talking about it, and pairing it with the perfect glass of wine. We are back today with Love Craft Country Episode 4. This one's called A History of Violence. And in this episode, there is a trip that they go on, not the big road trip like they did before, but they take a little trip to a museum. And when I was watching it, it reminded me of school field trips we would go on. So I did the question for today, and it is, what was the best school field trip you ever went on as a kid?
I love this question.
Oh, good.
I do
As
too.
I was worried it was a silly question, but when I was watching them
No,
go
I
through this
love it.
museum,
Okay, so I knew immediately what my answer was going to be. When I was a kid, I went to school in New England for a lot of my elementary school years, and that compared to the stuff that I've done going to school in Florida. In Florida, I haven't had a lot of memorable school trips. I mean, they're all like the same basic, like go to Busch Gardens, go to Disney. I haven't gotten the chance to go to Disney, but a lot of schools do that. Disney sounds fun to some people, I guess, maybe who haven't been, but for a field trip, it's not, it's just
Unique. Yeah.
same old type of thing. But when I was a kid, one of my absolute favorite memories, even in my life, is from a field trip that we went on to Boston when I was in fourth grade. We went to Boston Harbor and we went on a boat and we got to look at some of the water from the harbor that had like plankton and little sea creatures in it under a microscope. We went over to the aquarium, which is right there by like where the boats come in and stuff. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Ted with Mark Wahlberg,
Mhm.
but there's a scene in there where they're inside the Boston Aquarium and you can see the huge tank in the middle. It's like, I don't know, 4 stories up, and it's just this
Oh,
huge
cool.
tank in the middle of the room. And I just remember being a kid and feeling so cool. First of all, just to be like in Boston, away from my mom, on a trip felt cool. But just, I don't know, the aquarium itself is so big and so full of cool things to look at. And to be able to go out on the boat, I thought for sure I was going to be a marine biologist after that.
I
So,
feel like every kid had a marine biologist
hmm
moment where they,
definitely. Or a
yeah.
veterinarian
Mhm.
moment. Yeah. But that one was just so memorable to me. It was so cool and so different. And I don't know. I just always thought it was so exciting and fun. So I loved that field trip.
That sounds
I'll never
Oh,
forget
amazing.
it.
cool.
Yeah.
Mm.
I got to go on a field trip like that with one of my daughters when they were in fifth grade. Actually, both daughters went to this place. There's some place over here by us. In fact, Leah, maybe we should set you up with a day for this because
Ooh.
they take you out on the water, you collect water samples, and then you get to look at them under the microscopes. And then they also, well, they did a dissection though, and I think it was of a squid or something along those lines. But
Oh.
it's pretty cool. It's right. They have all of these, there's like a nature conservation area because we have a national park over here, and it's pretty nice. Maybe we could go sometime.
That's super cool.
Since
I don't
you,
want to dissect anything, but I would
well,
love
yeah,
to
we
do the
don't do that part.
rest.
Yeah.
What was yours, Kristen?
Oh, okay. So I immediately knew my answer too, and it was because mainly because we really didn't go on a lot of. I don't remember going on a lot of field trips in my life, but when I was and it took till my senior year in high school, I had this amazing teacher, Mrs. Fleming, and she taught AP Lit, and I feel like I learned probably more than I did in that class than any other. And she took us to Falling Water. It is a house that Frank Lloyd Wright built for the Kaufman family, and it's actually built on the edge of a waterfall. So no matter where you are in the house, you can hear falling water, you can hear the waterfall. So that's why it's called
Wow.
that. He built it around nature. So right like in the living room, there's a tree trunk that just basically grows up in the middle of the living room and comes out through the roof of it. And there's no panes in any of the windows, so it's all just open glass to nature. You feel like you're literally in the woods on a waterfall just
Hmm.
chilling. So it's beautiful.
That's
Yeah, I've heard of
amazing.
that house. I've always wanted to see it.
I recommend it. If anybody is up, I think it's in Pennsylvania, but we were in Northeast Ohio, very close, or maybe I don't know. It's
Mhm.
one of it's in that corner of West Virginia, Northeast Ohio, and Pennsylvania somewhere,
Okay.
and it's just gorgeous. I mean, it really, I'll never forget it. So
Does anyone live in it now? Or
no, it was
like, did
empty.
they
It's used
then?
as like now they do tours and stuff like that.
Mm.
So
Imagine though
yeah,
living somewhere where you have to always hear running water. I don't know if I would like that part.
really,
Oh, I would
see, it
like that.
calms me.
You just
I
pee
think
a
I
I would
mean,
lot,
like
no,
it.
probably. Yeah.
I would, I would love it 90% of the time, but then I feel like there would be like 10% of the time where I'd be
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
I need a
Yeah.
break from it.
I feel like
I
you'd
guess
Yeah, I
I
probably
would
feel
just,
like
tune it out if it was all the time, though.
maybe. Yeah.
yeah,
You
you
know?
might. I
But
just always feel like living next to like a river that's like has some sound and it would be really cool.
It
Babbling
would be
brooks.
really
Yeah.
nice. Like yesterday,
Yeah.
it rained in the morning, and when I woke up, it
Mhm.
was raining, so I opened my windows and I loved it. But
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
vibe.
maybe I would like it. It would be like a constant white
It's a
noise.
vibe.
Mhm.
Well, and I also wanted to say, as someone who's been a teacher, I've had the opportunity to take kids on field trips. I made it my mission to do that because so many kids say that they never get to go on any.
Mhm.
And I do have a couple favorites. One, I took
Mhm.
them to the Dolly Museum, the Dolly here
I
in St.
love the
Pete.
Oh,
Dolly
that's
Museum.
Oh, it's
that's a great museum.
spectacular. If you have not gone or brought your kids yet, Leah, I mean, just go. It is
I
so
haven't.
cool. It is just so
Mhm.
cool. And then, ironically, this is the one my students loved the most because I would ask them what their favorite field trip was. I took them on a virtual field trip every year to China for the Chinese New Year, and we would like bring in Chinese food, and I would put up on the screen the live feed from Beijing, and we would learn all these different things about China and Chinese
That's
culture. And
cool.
all of my students said that that was their favorite field trip, even though we didn't actually go
Oh my
anywhere. It was
gosh,
right in our
that's so
classroom. So,
fun.
It
right?
is.
Yeah.
Very
Yay.
creative.
All right, I'm done.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
like
I
that.
love field trips.
I'm surprised that you do. As a teacher, I feel like I'd be like, no,
Oh,
thank you.
yeah. Get out and do something. Experiential learning. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay, so mine, I always loved field trips, but mine was whenever we would go to the Shed Aquarium in Chicago. And I think I just really love aquariums. Like I
Mhm.
like watching all the fish from a safe distance through glass because the ocean scares me. I'm never gonna go in the ocean
No.
and look for 'em. I mean, I have, but it's not enjoyable or relaxing to me at all when I've gone snorkeling at all because I'm just assuming I'm lost at some
Mhm.
point.
Mhm.
But I find the aquarium very peaceful and calming. And I would also love anytime we went to a planetarium, and that was just because the naps were great. They put you in
Okay.
those like reclining
That's the
seats
best.
in the dark,
Planetarium.
and you're just
Sorry.
yeah, love it.
I like that we
So those
both
were
picked aquariums. I don't know much about the Shed Aquarium. I should go there
It's nice.
sometime.
It's a nice aquarium.
it's nice.
Is
Yeah, if
it?
I in any city, when Allison and I went to Atlanta one time, we went to the aquarium. Like if there's a cool aquarium in a city, I'll go if I'm
Yeah.
You've
just
all been to the
visiting
Florida
Aquarium too,
Aquarium
yeah.
here
for
in
anything.
Tampa?
I'm sorry?
You've been to the one here in Tampa then too? Because it's nice.
That one in downtown Tampa, I like that one.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That
it's
channel.
nice.
Is it that channel side?
The
Yeah.
channel,
It's called
yeah.
it's the Florida Aquarium, and it's
Mhm.
in Channelside. Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
a party there once, like one of our
Oh,
few office parties. We rented it out,
sweet.
Ooh.
We had
and
homecoming there once.
Oh,
yeah,
That's
I
So
like
like
that
they
one.
had like
awesome.
different dance floors in the different rooms.
Oh,
Now they
I knew
did
nice.
you
say
could
that
get.
we fogged up one of the tanks, and I don't know if they've had any since then, but it was nice.
I know
It's
you
very
could get
nice.
married
Amazing.
there, but that's cool.
That is cool.
Wow. I'm
Oh,
jealous.
Yeah, we've been to a few events there
Mhm.
actually.
Yeah, they
where
do.
people
They
have
do
went.
big
They
events
do
there.
events all the time.
Mhm.
Hmm
yeah.
Well, speaking of
Oh.
like aquariums and ocean life, just yesterday, my daughter, who is 10 years old, we started like a 90s. Somehow we got on. I was driving and I had to make a U-turn, and I said, "Hold on to your butts." And I said, "Wait a second, have you seen Jurassic Park?" And so it just kind of spiraled from there. So we came
Mhm.
home, we rented Jurassic Park, we watched that, we watched My Girl, and then at the end she was like, "I want to watch Jaws." And I was like,
Nice.
"Are you sure you want to watch Jaws?" And she's like, "Oh yeah." So we got about
Aw.
halfway through. She kind of lost interest a little bit. I fast forwarded through some of the less exciting parts. I think she
I
just
get
wanted to
it.
see the shark.
Mhm.
So we still do have to finish some Jaws, but just thinking of the aquarium and,
That's cute.
being out in the water and being scared of the ocean just made me think of
It's
that
like your
because I'm like,
generational movie in your family now, Leah.
it
Yeah.
is. It has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I was younger than her when I saw it, so maybe she won't be as
She'll watch it with
scarred.
her kid one day. I think it's cute. They have
Mhm.
dive-in movies sometimes here in St. Pete, and they show Jaws, like where
Oh
you're in like
yeah.
you're in like a little inner tube in a pool. You don't have to be in the and then they'll
Oh
show it on a
no.
screen, a
Yeah, I don't
dive-in
like
movie.
that.
It's cute.
You said, "Oh, no." I was like, "That's so cool." Allison, "Oh, no."
No, it is cool, but I was also that kid that would think like, is there a shark in this pool? Like, even though I know damn well there is not a shark in the pool.
It's so cute. Or they might mess with you and get someone with a shark fin to come swimming
Oh,
around you or
right.
Oh,
something.
no, that's
Right.
an oh, no. Don't mess with me in the
Mm-mm.
water.
I would
Just
sue.
that's immersive enough. I'm in the water.
Oh, that's
Let
great.
me at least understand that I'm safe in some cement.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, mine was Kelly. What was the museum next to the Shed Aquarium?
There was the Museum of Science and Industry and the Field Museum. We're both over there.
It was one of them.
Probably
I
the Field Museum.
just
Which one you like?
remember for some reason we had like a big lesson on the Titanic, and it felt like the whole year was about the Titanic. And one of those museums had the what do you call it when they travel around and they show like the
Oh, yeah, that exhibit
yeah,
tour.
exhibit, that's the
Yeah.
word.
Yeah.
One of the museums had the Titanic exhibit. I remember going to that, and that was pretty cool. Like you could touch an ice wall and see how long you could
Oh,
put your hand
wow.
on it for, because that's how cold the water was. But in that same museum, there was some attraction. It was a dark hallway, and it was a crawling space. You had to find your way through the space. It was completely dark, so you just had to kind of like feel your way through. I was always terrified to go in it, but all my friends would go in it and they'd come out and be like, "Oh, that was so cool." It took me years to work up the courage to do it, and I did it. And there's a halfway stop. If you knock and you're just like, I can't do this anymore, they'll open a door, and that's where I ended up stopping. So I never actually went all the way through it, but it was so cool. I was like, oh man, I wonder if I can feel my way through. It was just like a complete dark hallway, like twists and turns. And now that I think
There
about it, it's
wasn't
probably like
anything.
torturous, but
Yeah, I mean, was there anything in there to like scare people, or
no,
like
it was
that was
just,
nasty, or
I don't
you
know if
just
it
had
was
to
like a could you feel your way through if you were blind type of thing. It was just a dark,
right?
just
Oh,
completely pitch
I didn't know
black
if it was
dark hallway.
like a coal mining thing.
It
Like
very
there's a
well
coal
could
mine.
have
Like,
been. There was
That
probably a
sounds
lesson
terrifying.
behind it. I was just more focused on could I do it, and I wouldn't for
Yeah.
years. I wouldn't go in it, and then finally I was like, I'm gonna try it, and didn't make it all the way through.
It sounds terrifying to me, so I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it
you
was.
put your hands in and you have to like feel. No, I don't like that
Yeah, because they'd
either.
always be like, just use your left hand and feel the walls and the bends and stuff. I don't know. Some kids would go through it a bunch of times. I never made it all the way through.
Halfway was enough for you.
Yeah, but I was like, well, this is too dark. I don't.
That's like the other day when Kristen sent us that link to Eating in the Dark, and I immediately said no.
Oh yeah.
But before she even got to say, "Would you do this?" I was like, "No,
Nope.
I'm not dining in the dark. No,
I need to see my food.
I need to see." Yeah, because I like how food looks. Like I like taking the photos of the food. If I'm gonna pay money, let me look at what I'm about to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Agree.
don't know, the idea of losing a sense though. Did you ever see that movie where it's like it's a sci-fi movie where everybody in the world loses the senses one at a time. So first
Oh.
everybody stops being able to smell, and then everybody stops being able to touch, and then hearing, and then
No.
I think vision is the last one to go for everybody. Oh, that's quite a film. You should definitely. I'll try to get the name of it and send it to you. You
Yeah.
might like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So the idea of like taking one of your senses away, I think it heightens the other. So the idea is that
Mhm.
like if you don't see the food, but your taste and your smell are heightened, so you can maybe even experience the food in a
Right.
more heightened way. But whatever.
Yeah, totally. But let God and nature take that from me. I don't need to. I'm not paying you to just remove one of my senses. Like that's absurd to me. So no.
I guess it could be like a romantic idea.
Where is the romance? You can't see the person sitting across from you.
I should be more worried about what are they doing behind the scenes. It's so dark in there.
Right.
That too.
I can't trust what's on. I don't trust people, so I can't trust
No.
what's on the plate.
You're smart not to trust. Honestly. I'm too trusting, I think.
Just I never trust fully. It's not even, you know what? I won't even say it's trust. It's just I think I've told Leah this several times. I've just lowered my expectations of everyone so much. You can't expect everyone to react the way you would react, respond or do what you would do or treat people how you might. Just everyone's on their own journey. So just I've lowered my expectations so much, and I'm just like, I don't trust.
That's honestly like
Yeah.
really great advice though, because the older I've gotten, it's hard to accept that that's true, but it really is true. Like the idea that people don't necessarily like treat people the same way you would or react to things the way that you would or think the way you would. It's like,
Yeah,
not that
and I
it's a
can't.
bad thing, but
Yeah, and you just can't let yourself get upset about it because we were
yeah.
all raised
Yeah.
differently. We have different experiences. That's their journey, and I
Mhm.
can't put my stuff on them. That's
Yeah.
not fair.
That's a
So,
good perspective to
There's
keep.
way too much disappointment in expecting other
mm-hmm.
people to do what you would do. So I
Mhm.
like that.
Yep.
Me too.
All right. Well, let's get started with the episode 4, A History of Violence. This episode's wine pairing is The Lady of the Dead by FRIAS Family Vineyard in Napa Valley. The 2021 Lady of the Dead is an intense Cabernet-heavy red blend with a bouquet of red fruits, cinnamon, and spice, and flavors of boysenberry, raspberry, cranberry, cinnamon, and toasted oak. Pair this wine with beef, lamb, and hard cheeses. Enjoy! For more information about us and all of the wines that we feature, visit our website at fearandwine.com. And make sure you follow Fear and Wine wherever you listen to podcasts so that you don't miss a new episode. And if you like us, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. Thanks! Episode 4 begins with Montrose, and he's laying on the couch in his apartment in Chicago, and there's this news voiceover saying, if the United States fails to proliferate its stockpile of nuclear bombs, the barbaric Soviet Union will wipe out civilized America. So I guess this is that the Cold War? Was that in the 50s? I don't know. They're having this, no, it wasn't. That was in the
Korea. Well,
60s. It was
Korea.
Korea. That's right. Okay. Yeah. So he's just listening to this in the background, but meanwhile he's going through his grief with George. He's drinking heavily and he's got this bottle of brown liquor, and we hear him remembering his last conversations with his brother George, where he's telling him to look out for Tic and be nicer. And he looks at a photo of them and he starts crying. So he's having all these flashbacks of memories with his brother, and he's just having a hard time getting over this loss. And then Montrose has this book in his hand, and he reads from the book aloud and says, Adam named, Eve fucked, God brought forth monsters, monsters devoured, God smites Eve. So in essence, it's just a very abbreviated synopsis of the book of Genesis. I guess that's kind of what
Very
that was.
abbreviated.
Yeah. And then we get to look at the book that he's reading, and it's that same book that George found in the hidden library in the lodge, and it's the bylaws and precepts of the Order of the Ancient Dawn, and that's that Order of Adam, that club. Montrose then throws the book into a metal trash bin. He pours the remaining brown liquor from his bottle into it and then lights a match and burns it. And then as it's burning, he comments, smells like Tulsa. After the opening credits, we then see a close-up of that silver car, Bentley, Rolls-Royce, whichever, driving down the street of Chicago, and it's Christina Brathwhite is behind the wheel, while Rihanna's song, Bitch Better Have My Money, is playing. And Christina pulls up to Letty's haunted boarding house and gets out, and she goes to the door. And Letty meets her at the door before she's even able to knock, and she asks Christina what she's doing there. And Christina starts to walk in without being invited, but she finds that she has been blocked from crossing the threshold by one of those invisible force fields or spell or charm. Something's keeping her out, like she can't get through. And so Christina is surprised, and she's a little amused by this block and asks Letty who helped her evict Hiram. And that's that evil Dr. Ghost guy or physicist. Is that what he was, Kristen? I think.
Astrophysicist?
Astrophysicist, yeah. That owned the haunted home. So Letty is at first confused by the question and then starts to ask Christina how she knew about that when it hits her that Christina is the reason Letty suddenly became the owner of this old mansion. Letty also realizes that it must mean that Christina wants something from this house. So Letty asks Christina, does that something have anything to do with Atticus? And Christina tells her it's not always about the men. Atticus's blood may have power, but that's only because Titus designed it to be that way. That doesn't necessarily make him special. Christina tells Letty about Tic showing up at the realtor's office trying to kill her. And she warns Letty that if Tic keeps being reckless, he is going to get her killed again. And she doesn't want that for her. She's going to get Letty killed again. Christina says all she wants from the house is Hiram's orrery. And so that's that mechanical model of the solar system. And it should demonstrate how the planets and moons orbit around the sun. And Letty tells her that although Christina may have paid for her house, her name is on the deed, so she needs to leave. And Letty goes back into the house and slams the door shut in Christina's face. Over in George's office, Hippolyta is looking through George's old books and doing research, and she's on the phone with her father, asking him some science questions about the galaxy, and sure enough, she has that very orrery that we were just discussing. So Hippolyta tells her dad that this model has 2 sons, And so whatever this orrery is, it's not our galaxy. It's not our solar system. So she's trying to figure out what it is, and she's trying to get it to turn on because she knows it's an orrery and it's supposed to move on its own, but she wants to figure out what is this solar system or galaxy? Where is this from? And her dad tells her that it sounds like those sci-fi comics that her daughter Diana has been drawing. And then Diana, who is nearby with her friend Bobo, tells her mom that she and Bobo are going to go over to his house and read some comics. So a quick little note. In the last episode that Kristen covered when the kids were playing with the Ouija board, Bobo is one of the kids up there in that room playing with the board. And he asked the board, am I going to have fun on my trip coming up? And the board says no. So Bobo is a very important person, but I'm not going to tell you who he is. You'll find out later. But just know that Bobo and Diana are good friends.
Another
See, I
kid
skipped
probably
that tiny
has.
detail and then it came up. So my
I
bad.
know.
The kid probably has no say in this trip, but if a Ouija board told you that, would you still go on your trip?
If I specifically asked fun,
Mm-hmm.
I think I probably would, because in my last psychic reading,
I was going to say, are you going to bring this up? Because it makes a lot of
Mhm.
sense.
It does. I asked about, she's like, oh, you're going on a trip. And she said, well, it's not going to be what you want it to be. Just so you know,
Oh.
you're not going to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So it wasn't any sort of warning of, don't go, this is going to be horrible. So if all I'm asking is if it's going to be fun or not, I don't know that I would
True.
stop it, because I still went on the trip. And it ended up a week later, everything changed with the trip, and it wasn't what I had planned. Like it 100% changed, location, everything changed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so it just depends on what the warning was. I don't know if it was if I came from a Ouija board, though. I don't know. It seems a little more sinister. for some
Yeah, it
reason.
does.
Yeah. Than a woman you can ask questions and she
Right.
can explain. Yeah. So in the next scene, we see Leti walk into the South Side Colored Library with a little too much forcefulness and attitude to enter a library. Like she just storms in there. And she's looking for Tic, and she does a lap or two through the library, and then she finds him, and she confronts him about trying to kill Christina. And again, she has a little too much zest for a library, even to the point that this little boy is sitting at the next table over from Tic, and he's trying to read Journey to the Center of the Earth, and he has to shush her. And he's very cute. Tic tells her to calm down, and he takes her over to the aisles, and they talk a little bit more privately. So Leti is going off about how he figured out that Christina bought the house, but he didn't want to tell her that information. And Tic tells her that he didn't tell her because he didn't want to scare her. He also tells her that, yes, he did try to kill her, but it turns out Christina can't be killed. And he says, like we learned before, that it's because of some invulnerability spell that her father came up with. So Tic is there in the library doing research, trying to figure out a way to stop Christina. So Leti marches back over to the tables where Tic was working on, where he has all these books out, and tells him to explain what all this has to do with Christina and how they can stop her. So now at this point, the little boy at the next table has had enough, and he slams his book down and walks away because he realizes he's not going to get any reading done today with these two. Tic tells Leti that Christina said that there were 2 sets of deciphered pages from the lost book of names that are still in existence. She believes Hiram has one of those sets that he kept hidden from beyond the grave, and she believes that his orrery is the key to finding them. Christina also mentioned that Titus kept his set hidden in a booby-trapped vault somewhere that only he could access. Leti looks at Tic and says, but you have his blood, and so you think you can access his vault. So Tic's plan is, if he can get those pages, he can learn the language of Adam and then learn some spells that he can then cast to protect them. What? Like, as soon as he said that, I was like, sir. So
Yeah.
let's think about this. Your
That's a
plan is
lot.
to try to somehow access a vault that you don't know where it is. And you've just said the only man who can access it is now dead, but you're going to gamble that because you have some of his blood, maybe you can access it. Okay, fine.
Yeah,
That's step
start with
1,
that
though.
part. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
That's the first step. Step 2 is for you to then learn a whole new language that no one living speaks anymore.
Right.
And then when you feel that you have mastered that language, which I don't even know how you test that because who can quiz you on it, you're then going to try to some spells with that new language and just hope you got it right.
This plan has some holes in it for sure.
A lot of holes. And the plan's at least 3 years. I don't know how you're doing this in a couple days. And I'm just like, what? Are there no other options? Can we just put some salt around the doorway or get a root work or something? Like, there's got to be other options to stop this lady than this. It's just a very ambitious plan for someone who just learned he has magic like a week ago. So Letty seems to also think that this is the only reasonable next step, so she starts looking through the books with him to find clues. And Letty suggests that Tic talk to his father because Montrose probably did all of this research and more after he learned about his wife's connection to the Brathwhite family. Tic tells Letty to go home because he doesn't want her or his father involved. So Letty leaves and marches out of the library just as forcefully as she walked in. After she leaves, Tic starts looking at the library checkout cards, and it reminded me, like, oh gosh, remember we used to have those little index cards like in the in the sleeve?
yeah.
Yeah. I was like, gosh, I'm that old. I'm index card in
Like
the
the
library
Dewey
book old.
Decimal System.
Yes.
Yes.
So he pulls that card out of all these books, and he sees that the last name written on there was Montrose Freeman, his father.
Oh, wow.
So he has been doing all this research. Letty was right. It's now later that evening, and Tic goes to a bar and he meets up with Letty and his father to discuss their plan of action. Montrose is just as baffled as I was at this plan that Tic has come up with.
Finally, somebody logical.
Yes. And he asked, this part was funny, he asked Tic, where did I go wrong with you? Every time I tell you to do something, you do the exact opposite. I told you to stay away from the Grand Wizard shit, and now you want to run chest first into a magical treasure hunt. So Letty tells them that they have to do something to protect themselves. And so Montrose has a little slip up in this moment when he makes the comment, we already have one lodge looking for us. You want the other 34? And Tic asks him, how do you know that there are 34? So Montrose quickly tries to cover and change the subject and says, I only know what Christina told me. And he tells Tic that he wants no part of their plan and he's not going to help them kill themselves. Tic gets up from the table frustrated and he tells Letty he knew that this was a waste of time and he leaves. And so Letty looks at Montrose disappointed and asks him, are you really going to let him chase his tail looking for answers that you know you already have? Letty then calls Montrose an asshole and she leaves as well. But before she is out of earshot, Montrose asks her, do you have family in Boston? I think I know where to find the vault. So they are also going on a field trip to Boston.
Ooh, yay.
So it's now the next afternoon, and Christina, and that's our blonde lady, Christina Brathwhite, she is outside playing hide and go seek with some of the neighborhood kids, and she's having fun. And so are the kids, but they're a little frustrated with her because she clearly hasn't played before and doesn't understand the rules and nuances of the game. And so she's doing like just too much for what the game calls for. Like the kid catches her and then she starts like dancing and he's like, have you done this before? Like this isn't, just run to base. Like what are you doing? So during the game, two policemen approach her. And then there is a cut, and then when we see her again, it's now dark out, and Christina is being let out of the back of a cop car. She's not handcuffed, and she's not in any trouble, but it looks like she is pulled up to another lodge, similar to the one she and her dad lived in. And we don't know where this lodge is, but we know it's far enough away that it was sunny and midday when she got in the car, and now it's night. But it's still somehow in the Chicago area. I don't know where they are. She's led to a room where there is a policeman leaning back in his chair with his feet up. So remember how the cops caught Letty before and they seem to know something about this house? We're finding that the police are connected to this magic and this lodge in some way, or some police officers in this area are. So he has his feet up and she addresses him as Captain Lancaster. And he sits up immediately and he's pissed off and he asks her why she is in his city unannounced. She tells him that she went by the old Winthrop house to talk to Hiram and convince him to give her his orrery because it's the key to unlocking his time machine. And she's saying this and she's walking around the office and looking around and she looks into this like closet and we hear this man moaning. It sounds like some old ghost, but she ignores the moaning and then continues talking and tells him that she was surprised to find that Negroes had moved into the house. How did you let that happen in your city? Lancaster is shocked by the nerve of this lady to come into his area and try to take his lodge's rightful property and then straight up tell him to his face that she's going to do it. She quickly points out to him that he has yet to be officially initiated into the order. And Lancaster stands up and gets in her face and says, well, I know I didn't miss your initiation. No cunts allowed.
Oh.
All right.
Oh, man.
Not even if you think you can find the stolen pages. So the two of them have this tension-filled stare down between them. The next morning, Tic and Letty are silently yet aggressively packing up George and Hippolyta's car Woody to go on their trip to Boston and find the vault. So they're going on another road trip, but this time Montrose, Hippolyta, and her daughter Diana are going with them once they learn that this trip was to a museum that Hippolyta loves. Tic is not happy when Montrose tells him that Hippolyta and Diana are coming along, but Montrose points out that it is her car, so they really have no say in the matter. Now, Hippolyta and Diana have no idea about what Tic, Leti, and Montrose plan to do and breaking into the museum after dark and all that. But I guess Tic just figures we'll find a way around that when we get to it. So as they set off on their journey and start to pull out of the driveway, this random dude that we've seen before at parties and events, and he's said maybe a line or two, but he's of no real significance. But he shows up with a suitcase in his hand, and he's talking about, I heard you guys are going to Boston, and I need to get to Philly. So maybe I can ride with you guys to Boston and save some bus fare. And everyone in the car is silent, and no one is too keen on adding another body into this car. But Hippolyta says, sure. And they let him in, and they take off. In the next scene, we see Ruby walking into the famous Chicago department store, Marshall Field's. She's dressed to the nines to apply for a job, and so she has been trying to get this job there for quite some time, but they're never hiring colored women yet. But she keeps going back every few weeks or so to ask again, knowing that one day soon they will be, because legally they've lifted the ban, so they have to at some point. And that looks like that day may have come and gone, and Ruby missed it, because when she gets there, she sees a young Black woman working behind the counter. And the woman with her Marshall Field name tag walks up to Ruby, who is now pretending to look at some dresses, and asks her if she needs help. And Ruby says, did you just start working here? And the girl smiles and says, yes, I started yesterday. I know. She tells Ruby that she just walked in and applied on a whim, and she can't believe she actually got it. So Ruby looks so disappointed and heartbroken because she knows how long it took this store to hire just one colored girl, and there's no way they would hire two. So the group has now arrived in Boston, and they're walking around the museum. Diana and Hippolyta are excited to see all the exhibits and learn things, while Tic, Montrose, and Leti are just casing the joint. Diana and Hippolyta head over to an exhibit called The Light of the Universe, and they are going to the planetarium. Montrose sees this Black security guard that he knows, and he's contacted to help them out, and the two of them go away and talk. Tic tries to brainstorm with Leti where he thinks that they should start looking for the secret entrance to the vault. And Leti looks at the museum's map and sees that there is a Titus Brathwhite wing and says, well, let's just start there. Over in the planetarium, Diana and Hippolyta are laying on a mat on the floor looking up at the stars, and Hippolyta points out a comet to her and tells her that comet is called Hera's Chariot. Diana says that's a cool name, and Hippolyta tells Diana that it's her name. She tells her the story about how when she was a little girl, there was a contest by an astrological society to name a new comet. Hippolyta's name won, but since this was going to be for publicity and a whole big deal, they didn't want a color girl to be the face and the winner of the contest. So while they used her name, the credit and the official winner of the contest went to a girl named Nancy Studebaker, and she was the daughter of a Swedish astronomer. So Diana tells her mom that she should have fought them. And Hippolyta tells her, well, we know the truth. So then Diana shouts to the room full of people so that everyone in the planetarium can hear. Y'all see that comet? My mama named it. My mama named Hera's Chariot.
Aww.
It was very cute.
That's
so Diana
cute.
tells her mom, now they all know the truth. So now we're with Tic and Leti. And that extra guy, I don't even know his name, but that extra guy.
That extra guy.
Yeah, who's supposed to be getting a bus in Philly. I don't know why he's touring the museum.
Right, that's what I said. He's like, you said you wanted to make it to Boston. You're here. Go. Like,
yeah, go
why
somewhere.
are you in the museum?
Just following us around, yeah.
He's like, these people are fun. This is better than
right.
the
I guess
trip
they had a good time in the car.
Yeah.
So and he's going to meet some chick in Philly. So I guess he's like, she can wait. Yeah. They are on a tour through the Titus Brathwhite wing. And they're going to hear about all of his adventures and how great he was and how he helped the native people wherever he went. And yet also apparently took a lot of their stuff because now it's in this museum. And Tic and Leti separate to look around. And this guy decides to follow Tic. And Tic notices an old map of Titus Brathwhite's voyages that has really caught his interest. And so he's looking at it, and the other man is prattling on behind him about some nonsense because this guy was trying to flirt with Leti. I guess he and Leti went to high school together, and she's not interested in him. And he has figured out that Tic has told her some stuff that he said about her. Which I guess he bragged about them hooking up in high school. We don't even know if it happened, but he's just been talking to people. So now, to get back at Tic, this guy is making little digs to try to hint that Tic's dad, Montrose, might be gay. But for the most part, Tic is just ignoring him and staring at the map. Montrose finishes up his business with the security guard and sees Tic and tells him that the guard is going to let them in through the back later tonight after the museum closes. Montrose tells him they will only have 2 hours before the security shift change, so he's hoping they have found the vault. And that's when Tic gestures to the large statue of Titus Brathwhite. It's in the middle of this exhibit. Back in Chicago, Christina returns from the lodge to the home that she is staying in while she's there, and her silver car pulls into the driveway, and she gets out and goes inside. A few moments later, William walks out of the house and walks across the street to where 2 men have been sitting in a car spying on her and tracking her moves. William walks up to the men in the car, and as they start to get out, William just starts beating the crap out of them. One guy tries to pull out a gun, but William is too quick, and he takes them both down. While both men are on the ground moaning, William says, "Tell your captain, Miss Brathwhite doesn't like to be followed." So these 2 men are from that local lodge, and Lancaster has sent them. It's now nighttime at the museum, and Tic and Leti and Montrose are sneaking back in. So thankfully, this is the 50s, so there aren't any lasers or motion sensors or alarms or anything.
Or like security cameras.
Right, yeah. Nothing, no tech to deal with. They can just go back in because the guy let them in.
Simpler time.
Crimes are so much simpler back then. Once they are in, they are good to go. They go to the statue where Tic is convinced there is a door. And Montrose gets an idea and tells them to turn off all of their flashlights so that only the moonlight is coming through. And it's coming through these very carefully designed windows above them. And so they do. And the moonlight gets into this perfect position to shine on a spot on the statue and then refract and bounce over to shine perfectly on a spot on that old map that starts glowing. That glowing light on the map shines into a small spot on the statue that almost looks like a button. And so Leti touches the spot where the moonlight is and finds that it moves easily and slides over. And then a doorway opens in the pillar that the statue is mounted on.
Yeah, they would have loved escape rooms.
Right? They would have been good in escape
They would have been
rooms.
so good at escape rooms.
I've still never tried one. I want to.
I haven't either. I don't know if I would like it or if halfway through I would get bored and I'd be like,
That's
I'm ready
what I
to
worry
go.
about too. I feel like I'd get frustrated.
Yeah.
I'd like, do they have steps like easy, medium, hard?
I
'Cause
don't
if I start
know.
with
It's
an
a good
easy one,
question.
we should try it.
We should.
Yeah. So they walk through this new doorway that is opened, and they see that it opens to a large hole in the ground and nothing else. So the only way through is down. Tic uses a rope and descends first, and he lands in this large cavernous room with high ceilings and archways leading to 3 different tunnels for them to pick from. And Tic shines the flashlight around the archway and sees carved into the stone is the warning, "Beware all ye who enter the path, ever tide shall rise." Tic starts to clear away dust on the ground to look for more clues, and he calls up to Leti and tells her that they're going to need that map of Titus's voyages. So Leti, without pause, goes over to where the map is encased behind glass, breaks the glass, and grabs the map.
Oh, man.
And then, right, she doesn't care.
No.
And heads right down the hole to join Tic. And then Montrose follows much less enthusiastically behind her. And it's actually very funny because he's terrified as he's going down the whole time. He's me. He's just cussing the whole time as he's going down.
Like, oh, now I got to do this shit.
Right. So Tic finds the compass on that map and matches it up with the one that's carved into the floor, and this helps them decide which tunnel to take. So there's some Titus Brathwhite history trivia debate between Leti and Montrose, but between the 2 of them, they put enough clues together and they decide that the north tunnel is the one that they should take. We go back to Chicago real quick, and Ruby is performing at a bar, and she's singing this very sad, depressing blues music, and the crowd is not feeling it. So she gets off stage and goes over to sit at the bar and have a drink. The bartender hands her a drink and points to a man at the end of the bar who has bought it for her, and it is none other than blonde-haired, blue-eyed William. And Ruby looks at him and rolls her eyes, but it's a free drink, so she takes it. William walks up to her and asks to join her and sits next to her. Ruby is immediately suspicious of him and hard on him, letting him know that she knows what he wants because there's only one thing white men want from a black woman like her. She lets him know he will have to do more than just pay for some drinks to impress her. William says, "What if I told you that I could change your life forever?" Ruby tells him he is not the first white boy that has offered to make her a kept woman, and he's not the first one to promise her the world just to sleep with her. William tells her that this is a promise that he can keep. So Ruby kind of laughs, but she looks at him and is amused and charmed by his confidence, and she's deciding if she should just go with this or tell him to F off. Back in the museum tunnel, Tic, Leti, and Montrose have been walking for about 20 minutes, and they come to this huge opening in the cave that's a giant gorge, and they have to cross it to keep going. But the only thing to help them cross this is this narrow wooden plank that's slightly wider than a balance beam. And that's what they're going to have to cross. And Montrose suggests that they turn back and try another tunnel, but Tic says there's no time. We just have to cross this one. Tic grabs the rope out of his backpack and ties it around Letty's waist so that she can go first. Leti is terrified, but she begins to cross, and about halfway across, a giant pendulum with a blade at the end of it swings down right in front of her, narrowly missing her. I know.
Like the pit and the pendulum. Does
Like
anyone
the Pit and the
remember that
Pendulum.
movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is like the Indiana Jones's part, all the stuff that they're going to go through, yeah. So it causes her to stumble and almost fall, and she screams. So hearing this, Tic, because it's so dark in there, he can't. When she gets so far away, he can't really see her anymore.
See,
But
Allison,
he hears
this
her
is
scream.
what was probably happening in that room. You had to feel your way through. It's a good thing you
Right.
stopped halfway.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
And mind
Because
you,
you might have been.
It was only for
you might have
kids. You couldn't
fallen.
be an adult going through. So I really don't know why they had it, but it was terrifying.
Right.
That is a very strange thing for kids, a kid's activity.
I think it came after you went, because I just remember every year going, and that hallway
Mhm.
thing was just a big attraction for all the kids. Just
A lot of kids
pitch
are
black.
like adrenaline junkies. I was never
That's
that
true.
kid.
Never. Me neither.
Mm-mm. Sure
Mm-mm.
wasn't.
Still not.
I was
Still
on the other
not.
end waiting for them all to come out.
Right. I was the same way.
So Tic, he hears her scream, and he grabs the rope and starts rushing out to her as quickly and as carefully as he can, and he finds her stuck there as this pendulum is swinging back and forth. So Tic sees that they will need to run past it one at a time and time it out. So he has to untie her from her safety rope to do this. But they do, and they both make it safely past the trap. But as they're doing this, Montrose, who is still on the landing and hasn't started to cross the plank yet, looks down and sees that the plank is slowly starting to disappear. The magic that put it there is timed for Titus so that no one will be able to follow him across. So now Montrose is panicking, and he knows that he needs to start moving. And now he's going to have to start his journey on the plank by leaping onto it, so this increases his chance of falling. So he's yelling, Tic runs back to try and help him, and Montrose throws Tic his pack to catch first. But Tic does the same thing that I do when anybody throws something at me that I wasn't expecting, and I just reflexively swat it away. So the pack just goes over the side down into the gorge. So yeah, just don't ever just do like a heads up, or don't just throw me anything, because I'm just gonna dodge it. It's just my automatic
Like, I was supposed to
reaction.
catch that?
Yeah, you give me, if you're like catch, and then give me like a countdown. Like I don't, you can't just toss something at me. So seeing this, Montrose is in disbelief, and he warns Tic, "You better catch me." So Montrose jumps, and Tic does catch him, and they both regain their balance, and then they speed walk across the plank, past the pendulum, to the other side, where they have to decode images on this door to get it open, just before the plank fully disappears. And the decoding system is that whole thing that he said at the beginning, where he's like, Adam named, E fucked, blah, blah, blah. So they have these pictures, and they have to put them in that order, and they do it real quick. Once past the doors, they are in another tunnel that has water on the ground. And right now the water is about ankle high. But as they go further into the tunnel, the water level gets higher and higher. And Tic realizes the warning about the tide rising and knows that the high tide is 2 hours after the moon, so they have about an hour left before the water is so high that they will drown. We do a quick check-in back in Chicago, so it goes back and forth for a little bit. And at the bar, Ruby is in her cups, and she is tipsy and telling William her sad Marshall Field story. William looks at her, probably only half listening to the story, but Ruby is just drunk enough to find his attention attractive enough to hook up with him, and so they do. So it then cuts to the two of them in what I'm guessing is William's home, or the house that he and Christina are living in. The two of them are having sex in the foyer on the stairs of whatever house this is. Back over in the tunnels, the water is rising, and so are their tempers as they start arguing and yelling at each other, especially Montrose and Tic. Tic doesn't feel like Montrose is being truthful about everything, and he knows that he's keeping something from him. Montrose then finally admits that George gave him the Ancient Dawn's bylaws book, and he says that he read it, and then he burned it because he felt that that was what he needed to do to protect them. So the two of them are stopping to bicker with each other while Leti charges on because the water is rising and they need to get this over with. Suddenly, Leti lets out a scream that sends Tic and Montrose running over to her. And what they see is a dead body floating in the water in front of Leti.
Ew.
And Leti stammers, "I'm pretty sure that is one of my neighbors that went missing."
Oh my God.
It's getting weird.
It is getting weird.
Whoa.
They keep moving forward through the water when they come to a small open room within the tunnel, and just across that room is an archway. And they walk over to the archway, and then an elevator descends right in front of them. And this is the same type of elevator that Leti has in her house. In fact, it's the very same elevator that Leti has in her house. And Leti says Hiram Epstein was part of the order. He must have been chasing Titus's pages too. Tic opens up the elevator and tells Leti and Montrose to get in because it's starting to get too dangerous and to take the elevator up and out of there. But of course, Leti and Montrose refuse, pointing out that we're well past getting too dangerous at this point. So they leave the elevator behind.
So.
I know. They leave the elevator behind and continue down the tunnel that they were following. So they're now swimming because the water is so high. They finally arrived at a door that they think might be the vault. And they see what's left of a human arm sticking out of the hole in the vault. And the vault is locked. So this is an arm. I did notice this is an arm of a black man. So remember Hiram had those bodies, just missing parts?
Mm-hmm.
I think he was using this to try and open it. Just using people. He didn't want to risk his own arms. So he was just using people's arms. And so he sees now that sticking your arm through there is what's required to unlock this vault. So Tic removes the dead arm and he sticks his arm in the hole. And then we hear this loud clang and Tic starts screaming. And we see blood floating in the water coming from his arm. So the other two immediately try to help, but Tic tells them to stop. And we see that above the door, there are these little glass cubes that are filling up with blood. So it looks like an offering from the correct bloodline is what is needed to unlock this vault.
Oh.
And they got it right, and they are able to get in. So once inside the vault, the room is dry and water-free, so that's a nice little break. And it's filled with a bunch of super old things. There's like cobwebs and just all sorts of knickknacks, and it looks like an old Pier 1 or something. There's like crap everywhere. And there's skeletons. And all of these skeletons look like they died in the middle of doing something. So there are several skeletons around a table, like they're having dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another one who's walking around breastfeeding a baby. And she's still standing, and the baby's still like on her boob. And I don't know, everybody just died instantly or something. Mm. And then at a closer look at these skeletons, some of them are wearing Native American headdresses and crowns. So Leti spots a skeleton that is sitting at a desk holding rolled up papers. Tic reaches over to remove the papers from the skeleton's hand when, in a flash, that skeleton starts moving and writhing around and screaming, and it is coming back to life. And then you see muscle and flesh start to grow back onto this skeleton's body, and it stands up. And in moments, it is no longer a skeleton at all, but a fully alive, flesh and blood, naked, intersex person with a bunch of runes and symbols all over their body. They start to speak in their native tongue, which is Arawak, which no one understands except for Tic, so I guess his blood makes him able to understand this a little bit, and he translates. And their name is Yahima Marakoti, and they are both woman and man, two spirits. They came from the land of many waters. Titus arrived to the land searching for someone who could read his book, this language of Adam. Yahima knew the symbols, and they trusted Titus, so they helped. But they soon saw Titus for what he was and stopped helping and refused to decipher any more of the book. Titus promised to reunite Yahima with their people, and he kept that promise by killing all of them, though, and imprisoning Yahima in the vault. So I guess they're with their people at that, and that's who all the dead people are around the table and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So Tic apologizes for what Titus did and says that he needs to help keep them from hurting his people. Yahima tells Tic that they will not help because they do not know his spirit. Montrose says, let's just get the pages and go. Like, he doesn't have time for any more history. He's just ready to go. And he takes the pages from Yahima's hand, and as soon as he does, the windows around the room start to break and water rushes in. And they all start to run, and Tic grabs Yahima to run with them and get out of there. But outside of the vault, the water has completely filled the tunnels, so their only way out is to hold their breath and swim through it, back over to the elevator. They all make it over and into the elevator, which hasn't completely filled all the way up yet, so it allows them a brief moment to catch their breath. That's when Leti notices that during the escape, Montrose has let go of the pages that they came there for, and she sees them floating back out beyond the elevator doors. So she dives back under the water and goes after them. And she's able to grab them. It's one of those tension-filled scenes, like, is she going to run out of air? Is she going to drown? So she grabs them and makes it back to the elevator just before running out of air and needing to breathe again. Tic shuts the elevator door, and the four of them ascend above the water. So this is great for everyone except for Yahima, because now that we are out of the water, we realize what Yahima really is. And when they try to speak, only a high-pitched, ear-piercing scream comes out. Yahima is a siren mermaid.
I knew it. That was
And
going
I
to be
have
my
to-
guess.
I know. And I have to specify the mermaid version of a siren because this is something that's always driven me crazy. The original sirens from Greek mythology that are featured in the Odyssey are half woman, half bird. They're not mermaids at all.
Oh.
They're not half woman, half fish.
Are they
but,
the ones that are like topless on the island or
Mhm.
whatever? Okay.
Yeah, but they're half birds. The original ones. But here's
Okay.
what happened. So if you read the Odyssey, I haven't read it all the way through. I'm not like that level of smart, but I know the story. They're half woman, half bird. But there is some mythology that came about in the Middle Ages, and they figure it probably started due to a misinterpretation of the original translation, and they
Oh.
started using the term siren and mermaid interchangeably. So they more colloquial now are known as mermaids. So I assumed, and I could be totally wrong, but seeing as how Yahima's voice was affected by no longer being underwater, I'm assuming this is the type of siren the story is referring to.
Okay.
Now, for some reason, Yahima will not stop screaming. So Tic punches Yahima in the face and knocks him out. We cut to Diana and Hippolyta now, driving in the dark, heading back home from Boston, and it's just the two of them. Diana asks the only reasonable question to ask in this situation. How did they all get all the way back home to Chicago without Woody? So Hippolyta, clearly pissed and wanting answer, says, I don't know. And Diana says, everything has been so weird since Dad died. And then she starts drawing in her father's atlas that she found in the car. And Hippolyta notices something on the atlas and snatches it away from Diana and sees the drawing of the Grim Reaper character and then a red line going up to where he has drawn and circled the word Devon County, which is where Ardham, Massachusetts is. Hippolyta turns the car around and tells Diana they're going to go get some answers. Back in Letty's house in Chicago, Tic, Leti, and Montrose have Yahima awake and dressed in this nice satin robe, and they are trying their best to non-verbally communicate. Through this, Tic and Yahima believe that Titus turned Yahima into a siren so that once out of the vault, they would no longer be able to speak. Tic thinks that maybe, now that he has Titus's pages, that he can help break that spell and allow Yahima to speak again. And he suggests that in the meantime, they start teaching Yahima English to make deciphering the language of Adam easier for them to understand. He's doing a lot. Now you want to teach yet another person a language that this is, well, you're doing a lot. I don't know how, we don't even have Duolingo yet. Like, how are you learning all these languages
No
so
Rosetta
fast?
Stone.
Right, nothing.
I mean, it's all worked out for him pretty well so far. It's like
I guess.
everything's just falling into place. So
Yeah, it's true. Like the finding of the map, of the vault, it happened.
it's like destiny.
In a million years, I wouldn't have thought this would work out. I'd be that person back in Chicago and be like, I'll be damned.
Right.
You guys pulled that off. So Montrose is proud and impressed by his son, and he tells him how brave he was today. And Tic smiles at this and gets a little choked up at this sudden affection from his father that he's not used to. And he tells his dad goodnight and he goes to bed. Montrose is now left alone, and so Montrose goes into Yahima's room and shuts the door and walks to stand behind where Yahima is sitting in a chair. He puts his hand on Yahima's shoulders and leans down and whispers, I'm sorry. And then he cuts Yahima's throat. And the credits roll. That's the end. I hope I didn't talk too fast, but this was a lot to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. I love that Hippolyta is just on her way to Ardham now. She's like, forget this. We're on a road trip. We're just going to keep going. I mean, might as well. You made it to Boston.
Right?
Might as well.
That's true. Yeah.
She always
I
did
did
want to
really
go
get-
before, too, so now it's her
Yeah,
chance.
it's true.
You're right about the Indiana Jones vibes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Definitely had those.
This is a fun episode. Yeah.
Very adventurous. I like that.
Yeah.
Thank
Any
you,
questions
Kelly.
on that one?
No, I mean, I don't think I really have a whole lot of questions yet. I'm still just like waiting to see how it kind of unravels because I feel like at some point things are gonna kind of come full circle.
Yes. And this
And
one had a lot of hints to things in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
If you paid that will actually I think are revealed maybe next episode, especially with Christina and William, what their relationship is. And
hmm
yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm
And
interested.
then
I'm involved.
and I know you're dying to know who Bobo is, and
I
everyone who's
gotta know.
seen the
Did you ever
show
read the
knows who
book,
he is.
Kelly?
Huh?
Did you ever read the book?
I did not.
Oh, okay. I'm curious.
Is this a book?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
based
there
on
are
a book.
2 books.
Oh,
Mhm.
2?
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I knew it was.
Yeah.
Well, I learned from you that it was based on books. I think you said it at the beginning somewhere, but
Mhm. But
I
no, I never read them.
yeah, I was curious how good the books are, so might have to look into it.
I wonder how many liberties they took
Yeah.
from the books, which
Yeah.
they had to have. The way they worked so much history into it, I feel
Mhm.
like they probably did take a lot of liberties with from the books. But
Cool. Well,
yeah,
thank you.
that's
So
it.
good.
Yes,
Yeah, that was
thanks
awesome.
everyone.
That was fun.
We'll be back next week with episode 5.
All
Bye.
All
right.
right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. For more information about our episodes, follow us on Instagram at Fear and Wine Pod. And if you have a fun discussion question that you'd like for us to answer on the podcast, send it to us at fearandwinepod@gmail.com.